The wind carried a strange silence through the dead zone, a silence too complete, too perfect. It was the kind that made your ears strain for something, anything, just to feel alive. The once bustling city that now served as the last known safe dead zone on Earth lay in ruins, its skyscrapers like broken teeth against a gray sky, wrapped in fog and shadow. Eli Morgan stepped out of the battered transport vehicle, boots crunching glass underfoot. Behind him, the rest of the convoy began to pour out, men, women, children, survivors who had crossed half a country of chaos, blood, and loss. They were the last 100. Or at least, that's what the voices on the emergency broadcast had promised. If you can make it here, you'll find safety. But Eli didn't trust promises anymore. He hadn't for a long time. Keep your groups tight, barked Camila Reyes, the group's de facto leader. Former military, sharp-eyed, and sharper-tongued, she had taken charge when it became clear no one else could. Scouts, fan out. The rest of you, take shelter in the building ahead. The building was a massive concrete structure that had once been a government archive, now repurposed with makeshift walls and gun ports. It looked defensible but worn, like whoever had lived here before hadn't left by choice. Jared, the youngest of the scout team, nudged open the main door with his rifle barrel. Clear, he said, but his voice trembled. Inside, the space smelled of rust and stale sweat. Mattresses lined the floor. The walls were scrawled with maps, warnings, names crossed out with thick black XS. There were signs of life, but none remained. No bodies. No blood. Just absence. Eli scanned the room and saw a message scratched deep into the concrete above the emergency exit. No roads left. What does that mean? Whispered Anna, a quiet woman who had lost her sister just 2 weeks prior. It means, Camila said grimly, we're not the first ones here. As night fell, the 100 survivors settled in with unease. They lit no fires, made no noise. It was the unspoken rule of the dead zones, draw attention, and you die. But the real trouble began just after midnight, when the static returned. The radio, silent since morning, crackled without warning. Survivors, if you can hear this, the zone is not safe. You must move, deeper into the maze. Everyone froze. Camila snatched the receiver. Who is this? Identify yourself. But only static answered. Then, a sound. Not voices. Not even groans. Just, shuffling. Dragging feet across gravel. Eli and Jared exchanged glances, both moving to the window. Below, in the darkness, figures had begun to appear. At first, just one. Then 3. Then more than they could count. But these weren't the wild, frenzied undead that had plagued the outside world. No. These were slow. Controlled. Watching. Waiting. What the hell? Jared whispered. They're testing us, Camila muttered. Testing? Eli frowned. They want to see if we're smart enough to move. Or dumb enough to wait. Panic began to spread inside the shelter. Parents clutched their children tighter. A few whispered prayers. But Camila was already moving, barking orders. Pack up. We're not staying here. We move before dawn. Move where? Asked Anna, voice breaking. There's nowhere left. Camila pointed to the map scratched into the wall. A maze-like layout of the zone, roads twisting and looping, some ending in dead ends marked with skulls. There's a central compound. Marked here. Whoever left this message believed it's the true safe zone. And what if it's a trap? Eli stepped forward. Then at least we die moving. Not waiting. By 3 a.m., the 100 survivors had packed what little they had. As the shufflers gathered just outside the floodlights, the group moved out under the cover of darkness, slipping into the winding, crumbling maze of the city's forgotten streets. They split into 4 groups, each assigned a different sector to explore. If one found the way, they'd signal the others. As Eli led Group 2 into the maze, every corner felt like a heartbeat skipped. The walls of broken buildings narrowed around them like a noose. Shadows moved strangely in the moonlight. Some streets echoed their footsteps a second too long. And always, behind them, they felt watched. "There's no roads left," Jared whispered again, staring at another scratched message on a rusted car door. "No clear ones," Eli replied. "But maybe there's still a path." A scream echoed, distant but real. Not a monster. A person. And just like that, the silence of the last safe dead zone shattered. The scream echoed for only a moment, then vanished into the hollow maze of broken buildings and tangled streets. Eli stopped cold, scanning the shadows behind them. The others in his group, Jared, Anna, Run, and 7 more, had dropped low, rifles raised, breath held. "That was Harper," whispered Anna, gripping her backpack like it could save her. "She was with Group 1. "We don't double back," Eli said quickly, but gently. "Camila's orders. Each group moves forward. We signal if we find something, no matter what." Jared's jaw clenched. "But if that was Harper, and she's hurt? Then we'd be risking all 10 of us for one," Eli finished. "And she'd tell us the same thing." No one liked it. But no one argued. That's how survivors had stayed alive this long, by making the hard calls before the panic took over. They moved quickly now, deeper into Sector B, the roads curving unpredictably. This part of the city had once been industrial, warehouses, power stations, concrete towers built like fortresses. But time and chaos had changed it. Metal stairs led nowhere. Bridges ended in air. Narrow paths twisted under hanging debris. The map scratched on the archive wall hadn't lied, it was a maze. At every intersection, they marked an X with spray paint. At each dead end, a skull. And at each junction, Eli stopped, listened, and waited for signs of movement. The silence was thicker now. Too thick. Ren finally whispered, "Something's wrong." No one needed her to explain. It wasn't just the city's shape, it was how the air felt. How the birds had vanished. How even the wind held its breath. Then they saw it. A pile of fresh bones. Human. Still wearing a half-rotted backpack and boots just like theirs. Anna stepped closer. "That's a red tag," she said, pointing to the sleeve. Red tags were issued to Group 4. "Already dead?" Jared whispered. "How?" "We left at the same time." Ren crouched beside the body and picked up a small, strange object from the dirt, a piece of metal, sharpened and smeared with dark fluid. "A trap," she muttered. "This place isn't just dangerous. It's rigged." Before anyone could respond, a soft click sounded under Eli's foot. Everyone froze. Jared's eyes widened. "Don't move." Eli looked down slowly. A thin wire ran across the alley, barely visible, strung between a collapsed fence and a pile of rubble. "Traps here too," he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. Cutting the wire might trigger it. Ren stepped forward with precision. "I've got it. Just stay calm." The seconds dragged like hours. Ren carefully reached into her toolkit, cutting a narrow gap in the wire. The tension snapped with a faint hum, but nothing exploded. They exhaled as one. "We can't stay in open alleys," Eli said. "We need higher ground. Find a building with a clear roof." 2 blocks later, they found one, an old maintenance depot with a metal stairwell still intact. They climbed quickly, Jared watching their backs while Ren checked each landing. At the top, they pushed open a rusted roof access door and stepped into a cold wind and wide view of the sector. And there, near the center, was something that made Eli's stomach flip. Light. Faint. Flickering. Artificial. Someone's there, Anna breathed. Could be survivors, Jared said, hopeful. Or bait, Ren replied flatly. They stared at the light in silence. But Eli had already made his choice. We head there, he said. Carefully. If it's survivors, we make contact. If it's something else, we find out before it finds us. Just then, a soft scraping noise echoed from the stairwell below. Ren swung around. We locked the door behind us, didn't we? Eli's face went pale. No one had. They turned in unison, rifles raised toward the stairwell door. It creaked open. And a figure stepped through. But not a monster. Not a shambler. A person. Tall. Hooded. Face wrapped in cloth. A survivor, but not from any of their groups. He carried a strange, curved blade in one hand and a lantern in the other. No roads left, he said softly, his voice low and steady. Only paths through the silence. Who are you? Eli asked, gun still raised. I'm the one who drew the maps, the man replied. And if you want to survive, you'll listen carefully. Behind him, something moved in the stairwell. Slow, uneven footsteps. The kind that never stopped coming. The stranger didn't even flinch. You've triggered the first signal. Now they know you're here. Who's they? Ren demanded. The man turned his head toward the distant light. The ones who built this maze. And with that, the rooftop lights flickered, then died, plunging them into darkness as the undead closed in below. The rooftop went black. The group stood frozen, 10 survivors on a crumbling roof, barely breathing. Somewhere below, the stairwell groaned as footsteps climbed steadily upward. Not rushed. Not erratic. Steady, like something certain of its purpose. Eli raised his flashlight but hesitated. Every instinct screamed not to reveal their position. Yet they couldn't stand there forever, waiting to be dragged down into the dark. Back away from the door, whispered the hooded stranger. Now. Jared stepped back, his voice barely audible. You said you drew the maps. Prove it. What's coming for us? They were once people, the man replied. Volunteers. Subjects. But they've been changed, modified to track noise, heat, and movement. Not traditional infected. Something worse. Modified? Ren's voice was a blade. You're telling us someone designed these things? The man nodded once. And they don't stop. Not unless you trick them. Without warning, he pulled a small, jagged device from his coat and pressed a hidden switch. It emitted a soft whine, ultrasonic, piercing but nearly inaudible. The sound echoed down the stairwell. Then everything went silent. Even the footsteps stopped. The man turned to Eli. They're following the signal now. That bought us a minute, maybe 2. We move. He led them across the roof to a narrow beam bridging the gap to the next building. The survivors hesitated. One wrong step meant death. There's no other way, the man said calmly. Down there is the maze. Up here are the paths. One by one, the group crossed, arms spread for balance, the city stretching into shadow around them. Jared helped Anna across. Eli guided the last 3. Ren stayed near the front, eyes never leaving the stranger's back. On the next roof, the man stopped and knelt beside an old HVAC unit. With practiced hands, he peeled back a hidden panel, revealing a detailed schematic of the dead zone, etched on a copper plate bolted inside. The group surrounded him. This zone was part of a containment experiment, he began. When the outbreak reached critical mass, they isolated this area, Sector Echo. But before abandoning it, someone turned it into a test bed. They filled it with experimental walkers, traps, and false shelters. Why? Anna asked, trembling. Why would they do that? Because they wanted to study us. See how long survivors would last. Which instincts would kick in. Which choices we'd make under pressure. Eli's jaw tightened. We're not just fighting to survive. We're part of a game. The stranger nodded. And most don't make it past the first sector. Ren knelt beside him. You said you made the maps. Then help us get through it. Help us find the safe compound. There is no single safe zone, he said. But there is a way through. A pattern. A path hidden in the chaos. I've seen it. Walked it. It changes weekly. But tonight's sequence leads through 3 choke points. If we survive them, we might reach what's left of the broadcast tower. The one sending the emergency message? Eli asked. Yes, he replied. If it's still operational, it might have logs, records. Maybe even a working uplink. Anna looked skeptical. That's a lot of maybes. It's more than waiting to die, the man answered. Suddenly, a sharp whistle cut through the air. Jared spun toward the sound. A red flare arced into the sky, far to the west. Group 3. It's a signal. Jared said, hopeful. They found something. The man's face darkened. Or someone wants us to think they did. Eli made the call. We check it out. We've come this far. If it's a trap, we learn. If not, we regroup. They moved quickly, rooftop to rooftop. Below, shadows moved in strange patterns. Twice, they saw the modified walkers, taller, faster, heads twitching to the smallest sounds. One even paused, as if sniffing the air, before vanishing into the maze again. By the time they reached the flare's location, dawn had started bleeding into the sky. They found the signal flare, burned out, wedged into a rooftop vent. But no sign of Group 3. Except for one thing. A message carved into the rooftop concrete. We are being hunted. Not just by them. Someone alive. A blood-stained radio sat next to the carving, its battery half dead. Eli picked it up. Static. Then. This is Group 3. 2 of us left. Following something we thought was human. It wasn't. Or it used to be. Whatever's out there, it's learning. It set a trap. It's not just infected. It remembers us. Then silence. The group stared at one another. Whatever this dead zone was, whoever had built it, it was no longer just about avoiding zombies. Something human, something intelligent, was inside the maze with them. Watching. Waiting. And changing. The rooftop wind picked up, carrying a low moan through the shattered windows and broken steel. But it wasn't the infected, not this time. It was the city itself, breathing around them, alive in its own twisted way. Eli lowered the radio, his fingers still wrapped tight around the bloodstained device from Group 3. The others stood in a tight circle, faces pale and tense. No more signals, he muttered. We go dark from here. Anything that can hear us, already knows we're here. The hooded man, who still hadn't shared his name, nodded. The zone hears everything. Footsteps. Heartbeats. Even fear, if you believe in that sort of thing. Run looked him over. You talk like you've been here too long. I have. Anna stepped forward, her voice quiet but resolute. Then maybe you'll know what this means. She handed him a folded piece of weathered paper she'd found near the flare site. He unfolded it slowly. A hand-drawn diagram. Circles and arrows, strange markings at junctions, with a single phrase written across the top in shaky ink. Do not trust the ones that speak. Jared's brow furrowed. What does that mean? We haven't seen anyone talk. You've heard the radio, the hooded man said. You think that voice was human? You said survivors sent the signal, Ren snapped. I said it might be survivors, he corrected. Or something pretending to be. The city below was waking again. Somewhere in the distance, metal groaned. A broken horn blared for half a second before dying into silence. It was time to move again. They followed the rooftop trail east, toward the second checkpoint the cartographer had described. The path took them over sagging rooftops and narrow scaffolding bridges, most of it barely stable. The fog thickened as they climbed higher, rolling in from the ocean beyond the city's edge. Visibility dropped to a few meters. By noon, the sun was only a pale disk above them, offering no warmth. That's when they found the tower. Once a relay station, it stood cracked and rusted, wrapped in barbed wire, its base surrounded by half-collapsed structures. But someone had been here recently. Fresh footprints. Drag marks. And a gate propped open with a can of beans. Jared pointed at the can. That's a trail marker. Group 1 used food cans to mark safe paths. Or someone knows that, Eli said, eyes scanning the surroundings. We check it fast. Then move. The team crept into the tower grounds, weapons raised. The silence here felt different, thicker, as if the air itself had weight. Inside, they found more signs, a backpack with the name L. Cross, empty water bottles, and a flashlight still warm to the touch. They were just here, Anna said. Minutes ago. Then came the sound. Not shuffling. Not groaning. A whistle. 3 quick notes. A signal. The group froze. Ren whispered, that's the old evac signal from the northeast outposts. No one's used that in years. Another whistle answered, this time closer. Then a voice. Human. Soft. Feminine. Hello? Please, help me. They turned in every direction, weapons raised. The fog was too thick. Don't respond, the hooded man said firmly. That's not real. It's someone who needs help, Jared insisted. It could be Leah. She was with Group 1. Or it could be them. The voice came again, closer this time. I'm injured, please. Then they saw her. A woman, limping through the fog, one arm bloody, face shadowed by hair. She moved like a survivor. Stumbled like one. Sounded like one. But something wasn't right. Her head twitched once. Then again. Too sharp. Too fast. Ren raised her rifle. Back away. Jared shouted, wait. That's Leah. No, Anna said. That's not Leah. The woman stopped just outside the gate. Slowly, deliberately, she straightened. The limp vanished. The head tilted, unnaturally far. A grin stretched too wide. And she spoke again. But this time, the voice glitched. Please, help me, the sound looped, distorted. A mimic. The woman lunged. Gunfire exploded through the fog. Jared fired first, but the mimic moved like it saw the bullets coming. It dodged, then leapt sideways, vanishing into the smoke. We move now. Eli shouted. They ran, weaving between fallen walls and shattered support beams, the mimic's glitching voice echoing behind them like broken music. Help me, help me. By the time they reached the next rooftop, they were breathless, silent, and shaken. No one spoke for a long while. Finally, Anna asked, what was that? The cartographer stared into the fog. They're learning. They've started copying us. Our faces. Our sounds. Our words. There's no telling now who, or what, might be waiting in the maze. Eli looked out across the rooftops. 100 survivors had entered the zone. Now only fragments remained. And the dead weren't the only ones watching. The fog didn't lift. If anything, it thickened, as if the city was trying to erase them one rooftop at a time. By dusk, the survivors had reached the old broadcast tower. From a distance, it looked promising. Steel beams still stood tall, power cables connected to a reinforced structure below, and faded satellite dishes leaned toward the sky like broken wings. But the closer they got, the more wrong it felt. No guards. No survivors. No noise. "Power's still on," Ren said, pointing to a weak red glow pulsing behind a shattered window. "But who's keeping it that way?" The cartographer ran a hand along a support beam, squinting at symbols scratched into the metal. "Modified sector," he muttered. "See this symbol? It means this area was part of Phase 3 testing. That's beyond behavior tracking. That's programming." "Programming?" Anna asked. "They tried to teach the infected how to patrol. Mimic, respond. Then they added speech." Ren gave a short, humorless laugh. "Great. So now we're fighting zombies with homework." Eli motioned to the rest of the group. "Check the perimeter. If this place is safe, we stay the night." Jared and Anna swept the southern edge, Ren and the cartographer took the north. Eli moved alone toward the tower's entrance, weapon drawn. He pushed open the metal door. It creaked. The inside was still, quiet, but intact. Monitors lined the wall, blinking dimly. Dust coated every surface except the floor, which was covered in recent footprints. Human ones. He pressed his radio. "Camila, this is Group 2. We've reached the tower. No contact with Groups 1 or 3. Encountered mimic type. Setting up base. Do you copy?" Only static responded. Then a voice, faint, choppy. "Static, jamming, confirm sector sweep." It was Camila's voice, but fragmented, like it had been chopped into pieces and played out of order. Eli lowered the radio. "They're listening to our channels now," he said quietly. Behind him, Ren stepped inside. "North's clear. Found some disturbed ground. Something was buried there. Dug up recently." Jared and Anna returned, eyes grim. "South's the same. Quiet. But too quiet." The cartographer wandered in behind them, hands in his coat. "This place, it's not just a tower. It's a relay node. The heart of the maze." Eli turned. "What do you mean?" The man pointed to a map on the wall. It showed the dead zone, but different from their scratched version. This one had overlays, infrared zones, hot paths, movement patterns, and something worse. Schedules. Certain corridors opened and closed at exact times. Traps reset themselves. Paths rotated. "It's all coordinated from here," the cartographer whispered. "Whoever ran this, they treated it like a simulation. The infected follow zones. So do the mimics." Jared stepped forward, studying the map. "Then if we stay in the right zones at the right times, we can stay ahead of them," Ren finished. Anna looked out the window, voice quiet. "How many others knew this?" "Too few," the cartographer said. "Most didn't make it this far." Night fell fast. The survivors locked down the tower's lower level. Eli stood watch at the door while the others tried to rest, but no one truly slept. The city murmured around them, distant echoes, far-off groans, the occasional electronic whine. Sounds that didn't belong. At midnight, something changed. The red light behind the monitor blinked green. A voice crackled to life from the speaker, calm, measured, male. "Group 2. Your location has been logged. Adjust your course. Sector D5 is compromised. Proceed east. Jared stood up. That's a human voice. No, said the cartographer. That's synthetic. Anna stepped back. Then why is it helping us? Eli's face was stone. Because it wants us alive. For now. The group debated, stay until morning or move now. The tower was secure. But if the system knew their location, how long before the infected arrived? I say we go, Ren said. We've got one advantage, timing. Eli nodded. We follow the system's schedule. Use the maps. Move quiet. Stay low. By 2 a.m., they were back in the maze. No talking. No lights. Just shadows, maps, and the sound of their own hearts. They passed through twisted alleys where drones hung like dead birds from lampposts. Through tunnels scrawled with names, crossed out in red. At each turn, the map proved accurate. Each path they followed was clear. Until they reached the bridge. It was gone. The steel walkway that should have crossed Sector D5 now hung broken, cables swinging above an abyss of collapsed buildings. Map says it should be intact, Jared whispered. It was, the cartographer replied, eyes narrowing. But someone else changed the maze. Ren pointed to the far side. A light flickered. A signal. We're not alone, Anna whispered. And behind them, something groaned. Low. Wet. Close. The schedule was wrong. The maze had shifted. And they were being watched again. The groan came again, closer this time, and longer. It echoed through the collapsed streets like a warning siren buried in flesh. Eli spun around, weapon raised, but saw nothing. Only swirling fog and the hollow wind moving through broken buildings. The bridge ahead was gone. The street behind them was compromised. And now, they weren't alone. Fall back, Eli whispered. Back into the corridor. Jared didn't move. He stared toward the far side of the broken bridge, where a flickering light continued to pulse like a beacon. What if it's them? He asked. Group 3, what if they found another way? Ren pulled him hard by the shoulder. Or it's bait. Just like before. Eli motioned them to move. The team turned back the way they came, boots soft against cracked concrete. But the maze had changed. The left turn they'd taken an hour ago was now sealed with collapsed debris. The right path, previously clear, was now flooded, dark, murky water sloshing beneath a fallen sign that read, Zone C, access denied. What the hell is going on? Anna asked, spinning in a slow circle. None of this matches the map anymore. It's adapting, the cartographer said grimly. It's not just scheduled. It's reactive now. Reactive how? Jared asked. Like a puzzle. One that changes shape when you try to solve it. Ren stepped to the edge of the water. So where do we go? Eli scanned the area. His eyes locked on a shattered maintenance tunnel just ahead. Low and narrow, but still passable. There, he said. We go through. Stay low. Stay quiet. One by one, they entered the tunnel. It smelled like rotten oil. Pipes lined the ceiling, and old maintenance carts blocked the path every few meters. They crawled in silence, flashlights off, relying on memory and instinct. Somewhere above, something heavy moved, each step a deep metallic clang. The infected weren't just wandering anymore. They were tracking. How deep does this go? Anna whispered. The cartographer hesitated. Deeper than I've ever gone. Great. Halfway through, Jared's foot hit something soft. He reached down and pulled it up, a torn jacket, soaked in something dark. Inside the pocket, a small keycard blinked faintly. Access, Tower Sector, Override B. What's this? He asked. The cartographer snatched it from him. Override key. Must have been from a technician. With this, we might be able to shut down one of the control relays. You mean, turn off parts of the maze? Ren asked. Temporarily, he said. But it might be enough to create an opening. A new sense of urgency pulsed through the group. If the maze could be paused, even briefly, it might allow the remaining survivors to regroup, escape, or signal for help. They emerged from the tunnel into an open square surrounded by collapsed buildings. In the center stood a security kiosk, cracked but still upright. And inside, a terminal. This is it, the cartographer whispered. One of the old control nodes. He swiped the card. The terminal powered on, sputtering to life in a burst of static and blue light. The screen flashed, Maze Sector Grid online, dozens of blinking dots appeared, many moving slowly. Some red. Some blue. A few pulsing gold. What are those? Anna asked. Red are infected. Blue are survivors. Gold. I don't know. Ren pointed to the map. We're here. And we're surrounded. Jared stepped forward. Can you shut it down? The cartographer hesitated. I can try. He began typing. The screen flickered. A loading bar crawled across the screen, painfully slow. Then, an alert, intrusion detected. Lockdown engaged. The terminal hissed and shut off. What just happened? Eli demanded. The cartographer stood still. It rejected the override. The system knew it was coming. Someone else is controlling it now. Suddenly, alarms blared through the square, old, mechanical sirens that echoed across the rooftops. Lights blinked red above doorways. The infected responded instantly. From every direction, they emerged, out of windows, from tunnels, through alleyways. Not running, but fast enough. Silent enough. Coordinated. They're coming, Ren said, raising her rifle. Get to high ground. Eli shouted. The group sprinted toward a half-collapsed fire escape. Jared climbed first, then Anna, then the others. As they reached the roof, the infected swarmed the base below like ants. But that wasn't what stopped them. From a rooftop across the square, a new figure stepped into view. Human. Or it looked human. Tall, armored in scavenged gear, face hidden behind a reflective mask. It raised one arm and pointed at them, deliberately. Slowly. Who is that? Anna asked. The cartographer backed away, eyes wide. I've heard stories. The maze's guardian. The first test subject. Not infected. Not sane. Still human, in the worst ways. Below, the swarm had stopped. Waiting. Obeying. And the masked figure raised its hand once more. This time, beckoning them forward. The masked figure didn't speak. It didn't move, at least, not at first. It just stood on the opposite rooftop, motionless, one arm raised, finger pointed directly at the group. Then it beckoned again. Once. Twice. Slow, deliberate gestures. Eli's voice was tight. What is it trying to do? Draw us out, Ren muttered. Or divide us. It wants us off this roof. The infected below hadn't moved. They waited in formation, eyes upturned, bodies swaying gently, as if under command. No snarls. No rage. Just eerie obedience. It's controlling them, Anna whispered. How? It's not control, said the cartographer grimly. It's loyalty. They recognize it as one of their own, or something worse. The guardian lowered its arm. A strange clicking sound echoed from its side, followed by a pulse of light from a device strapped to its chest. The sirens stopped. The swarm dispersed. Not in panic, but in pattern. Back into the maze. Back into the dark. Ren gripped the rail. That's not possible. They're coordinated. They're organized, Jared whispered. Like soldiers. The rooftop settled into silence again. The Guardian remained still, watching them. Then it turned, disappearing behind a rusted ventilation system and vanishing into the shadows like smoke. Eli exhaled slowly. We move. Now. Before it changes its mind. The group descended the fire escape and picked their way east through the remains of Sector D. The silence that followed them wasn't comforting, it was calculated, like the zone was listening. 3 blocks later, they came upon a long, low building with reinforced windows and metal doors. An old civil defense bunker. It had power. Cameras. Steel walls. Let's take it, Eli said. 1 hour rest. Then we regroup. Inside, the bunker was intact. Dusty, but untouched. As if someone had cleaned it recently. Beds were made. Water drums full. Batteries charged. Ren scowled. Too clean. It's a trap, Jared said. The cartographer moved ahead. No. It's a test. This is what the maze does. Offers safety. Watches what you do with it. Anna looked to Eli. So what do we do? He answered without hesitation. We stay alert. Take turns resting. No lights. No noise. Ren volunteered for first watch. Eli sat across from her, near the locked entrance. Jared finally allowed himself to collapse on a bunk, his eyes closing within seconds. Anna lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, her fingers wrapped around a dull pocketknife. The cartographer stood near a dusty wall panel and slowly traced the circuit lines with his fingers. This was a government experiment, he said softly. I knew parts of it. But this was a city built to observe human desperation. Ren raised an eyebrow. And that thing out there, what was it? Part of the test. He nodded. The original subject. His name was Marcus Vale. Volunteer. Or so they said. They gave him the command protocols. Let him manage the zone. Eli stiffened. Manage how? Like a warden, the cartographer said. He could change path schedules. Set traps. Reprogram mimic behavior. At first, he helped survivors. But over time, he changed. You're saying that thing was human? It still is. Partly. But he's fused with the system now. Knows its rhythms. Hears its signals. The maze obeys him. Ren stood slowly. Then how do we beat him? The cartographer turned to her, face hollow. We don't. Not head-on. Eli leaned forward. What if we shut down the main relay? Disconnect him from the system? The cartographer hesitated. There's a central core beneath the eastern wall. Deep underground. It's called the Nexus. It runs the signal routing. But it's protected. By the infected? By him. They sat in silence as the weight of the revelation settled in. If they wanted to survive, they had to reach the Nexus. And they had to go through the Guardian to do it. Suddenly, the bunker lights blinked. Once. Twice. Then the speakers crackled. A voice, familiar. Calm. It was Camilla's voice. But the words weren't hers. You've done well. You've navigated further than most. But the maze doesn't reward effort. It rewards obedience. Anna covered her ears. Make it stop. Return to your marked zone. Remain still. Accept evaluation. Ren ripped the speaker wires from the wall. Silence returned, but the damage was done. The Guardian knows where we are, Eli said. The cartographer opened a metal floor panel and pointed down a narrow shaft. There's a maintenance route here. Leads out the back and through the power tunnels. Where does it end? Jared asked. At the edge of the Nexus zone. Eli looked to the others. Gear up. We're going underground. They dropped into the dark, one by one, not knowing if they'd emerge alive. Above them, somewhere in the city, the Guardian watched. And waited. Would you like me to continue with the final chapter, Part 8? Part 8, Into the Nexus. The maintenance tunnel sloped steeply downward, growing colder with every step. Pipes hissed along the walls, dripping condensation and echoing like whispers in the dark. Their footsteps were muffled against the grime-coated floor, but every sound still felt too loud. Down here, it wasn't just silence that stalked them, it was expectation. Eli led the way, rifle ready. Behind him, Jared and Ren flanked Anna, who kept one hand on the map and the other on her knife. The cartographer followed last, muttering to himself, checking temperature gauges, scratching notes onto a page torn from a wall poster. According to these tunnels, he said, voice low, we're less than 200 meters from the Nexus chamber. Anna looked back at him. What happens when we get there? The cartographer didn't answer immediately. Then, if the system core is still operational, we can send out a real broadcast, something not controlled by the Guardian. Maybe even trigger a reset of the zone. And if it's not? Jared asked. Then we die where the maze began. A sudden vibration rippled through the walls. A low, grinding hum echoed from somewhere ahead. Ren raised her weapon. Something's moving down here. Eli signaled for silence. They pressed against the tunnel walls, breathing shallow, waiting. The hum grew louder. Rhythmic. Mechanical. Then a light appeared, far down the corridor. Not a flashlight. A scanner beam. Jared leaned closer to a wall vent. Maintenance drone, he whispered. One of the old auto patrol units. They watched the small machine hover slowly by, scanning for movement. Its red eye pulsed once, then again. It passed within meters, then turned the corner and vanished. Only then did they move again. The tunnel opened into a wide service chamber, massive, circular, with rusted stairs leading downward. In the center stood a cylindrical structure bristling with wires and vents. The Nexus core. A faded government seal barely clung to one of its metal plates. Below it, a sign read. Authorized access only, Class 7 clearance required. The cartographer stepped forward. This is it. He pulled the override keycard from his coat and swiped it across the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, click. The door slid open. They entered as one. Inside, the walls hummed with energy. Screens flickered. Codes ran in endless loops. One display showed blinking red dots swarming across a map. Eli realized they were being tracked in real time. Then a new screen lit up. Maze override access detected. A voice filled the chamber. You've come far. Everyone froze. The Guardian. Not through a speaker this time. The voice came from everywhere. From the system itself. You think this place is a prison. A test. But it's a mirror. It shows you what you are. Jared raised his gun toward the glowing core. We can shut it down, right? The cartographer nodded slowly. I think so. But it may not stop him. Ren stepped forward. We don't need to stop him. Just break the system. Eli turned to the panel. Tell us how. The cartographer pointed to the controls. I initiate a core disruption. The signal collapses. The maze loses coordination. But we'll only have minutes before power reroutes and it starts rebooting. That's enough, Eli said. The cartographer began typing. Suddenly, the chamber doors slammed shut. Behind them, a shadow moved. The Guardian. Now face to face. Up close, the mask wasn't metal. It was bone, covered in synthetic skin, etched with scars. His armor was welded from survivor gear, bits and pieces of groups long gone. His eyes, hidden behind mirrored lenses, reflected only cold light. "You don't belong here," he said. Ren fired. The round struck the mask, sparks flew, but the Guardian didn't fall. He surged forward. Chaos erupted. Eli tackled him, knocking him off balance. Jared slammed a pipe into the back of the Guardian's head. Anna grabbed the control console, shielding the cartographer as he kept typing. Almost there, the cartographer shouted. The Guardian grabbed Eli by the throat and slammed him into a pillar. Alarms screamed. Lights pulsed. But Eli held his grip on the mask, clawing at the visor. Ren landed a shot to the Guardian's leg. He faltered. And Jared shoved him back toward the console, right as the cartographer hit enter. Maze system override activated. A blast of light filled the chamber. The Guardian howled, a sound somewhere between rage and static, and staggered backward, clutching his chest. Sparks erupted from the devices wired into his armor. His body convulsed. Then, silence. He collapsed. The system map blinked. Unlinked. Coordination lost. Infected status, disorganized. Sector doors, unlocking. The maze was broken. The survivors stared at the screen in disbelief. Eli rose slowly, bruised but alive. Did it work? The cartographer nodded, breathless. For now. We've fractured the system. The infected won't be coordinated anymore. The Guardian is gone. Ren stared at the fallen figure. Then we run. They climbed from the chamber as the maze lights flickered. Pathways unlocked. Doors opened. Across the city, survivors who had once been isolated were free to move again. At dawn, Eli stood on a rooftop, watching smoke rise from the Nexus zone. Jared beside him. Anna and Ren behind. The city was still broken. Still dangerous. But now, there was a way out. No roads left, Eli said, voice steady. Then we make new ones, Anna replied. And they moved forward. Together. The end.